Welcome to Simplify. I'm Caitlin Schiller, and in this episode, you will hear from Ev'Yan Whitney, a sensualist and somatic practitioner, and you will also hear from special guest co-host Phoebe. Phoebe?
Hello, I'm Phoebe McIndoe, and I'm thrilled to be here with you, Caitlin, as a personal fan of Ev'Yan and aspiring sensualist. Can't say that I'm there yet, but I'm on the journey.
Aren't we all? We're all both already there and on the journey, I think, is what we're going to learn throughout this interview. Yeah. So maybe you're wondering, where's Ben? I will tell you, last week Ben's kid was sick and he couldn't be here. This week, Ben himself has been stricken down by a bug. He's fine, don't worry. But I think that this also provides us a really nice segue because Ben is home sick because he listened to his body. And that is what we're talking about today with Ev'Yan Whitney. And again, somatic practitioner, sensualist, author, podcaster, and an advocate for generally awakening all of us to the pleasures of the senses that are alive inside of us. We talked about a lot of things, advocating for what your body needs, what it feels like to really be in your body. I think that you'll enjoy it. This is a little bit more of an esoteric topic, but I think it's really important and really interesting. You might want to listen to it more than once, and I would really love to hear what you think about it. You can always email us. Yeah, Phoebe.
Yeah, I think I loved the way you put it there of kind of being alive or feeling into the pleasure of all the senses that are alive within us, I think you said. And yeah, that gives me almost a kind of bodily reaction hearing that, this word pleasure and thinking about these feelings and sensations that we don't often pay much attention to. And I guess I would just add that I'm coming to this interview having had the pleasure of working with Ev'Yan Whitney before on a manifesto which they very kindly wrote for Blinkist. And this manifesto is to the senses and to the idea of slowness and slowing down. And there was a question in the manifesto that we will link to in the show notes, which was, who would you be if you were fully in your body? And that's something that's kind of haunted and delighted my thinking ever since.
Yeah. What I really love about that question, which again seems maybe kind of esoteric on the surface, but it's a really good question because what we'll learn in this episode too is that when you are fully in your body and paying attention to the sensory input you're receiving, when you're there for it, when you're there for the wisdom of what your body is saying to you, you really can be a different person because you were then equipped to make different choices. You have new information. Feelings, as we've learned in other episodes of Simplify, feelings are a data set. Sensations are also a data set, and they are one that I think a lot of us are very cut off from. So
what particularly resonated from the interview? Was there something that we should be listening out for?
Yeah. There was this moment when Ev'Yan describes how to tell whether you're up in your head or whether you're really in your body in the moment. And it sounds like you should be able to do that pretty easily, but the distinction is actually, it's different. You've experienced it before, Phoebe, right? Like trying to decide whether you're in your body or in your head. It's hard.
Yeah, I think, that feeling of being disconnected from your body is so interesting because it's something I usually feel a kind of great deal of shame around. And what I like about Ev'Yan's work and what I return to is I think they encourage this idea of not feeling shame around disconnection, but being just curious about it and where's that coming from and why am I not feeling safe in this context? And why have I escaped from my body and into my mind? What's sort of going on there? So, yeah.
Yeah. All right. So let's do it. Let's hear the interview. Phoebe, see you in the bookend.
See you at the bookend.
Hi, Ev'Yan. Thank you so much for being here today.
Caitlin, thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be here.
So, to start us off, I would love it if you could introduce yourself the way that you like to be introduced.
My name is Ev'Yan Whitney. I use they, them pronouns. I am a sexuality doula, a somatic practitioner, and I like to call myself a sensualist because so much of my work is around being in my sensual body.
How did you get into what you do?
So I say that I got into this work for very selfish reasons. I was trying to understand, heal, and reconnect to my body and my sensuality and my sexuality outside of so many narratives that I'd been given about all of those things. Narratives of shame, narratives of disempowerment, narratives of not having agency or connection to my desires as that being a good thing. So I was really coming to this work, not really from a place of wanting to help other people. I really wanted to just help and quote unquote fix myself because I was feeling really disconnected. I was feeling really dissociated. And particularly within this realm of sexuality, I was feeling lost. Like I was looking at all of my peers and seeing all of these things in the media, folks talking about how sex was so magical and amazing and pleasurable. And I was like, what are you guys on? Because that is not the experience I'm having. I mean, I've caught glimpses of that, but most of the time I am not in my body when I'm having sex. Like everybody is talking about sex and it's seemingly everyone's doing sex and being confident within that expression. I began to write very openly and publicly on the internet about some of these questions that I was having and some of these fears and confusions and also curiosities I was having about like what would be on the other side of my sexual self if so many of the things that I've internalized, shame and trauma and fear, if those things got reconciled, like what would be on the other side of that? I got a lot of folks who were reading my words at the time saying, oh my God, me too. I have the same experience. I've had a similar upbringing. I was raised conservative Christian, signing purity contracts and abstinence-only teachings. And that was kind of like the inkling for me. I was like, oh, I'm not the only one. I'm not the only one that feels disconnected or unconfident or unsure, even in my 20s. Like I'm hearing from folks, from women, from non-binary folks who are in their 30s, 40s, 50s, saying the same thing or similar things as me. And it was from there that I just continued to dive deeper.
First of all, thank you for sharing all of that. And second, I think that most modern humans existing under capitalism are carrying around a deeply wounded sensuality. Sensuality has been kind of collapsed into sex, which is, as well we know, very much commoditized, so it can be controlled. But if we decouple sensuality from sexuality for a minute, and I want to make sure that we really do that mindfully, can you tell me about how you envision and understand sensuality?
Yeah, I really appreciate this question because you're so right. So many people have seen sensual or sensuality as being synonymous to sexual or sexuality. And while I believe that we absolutely can have sensuality dance within sexual realms, I see sensuality as its own expression, as its own experience that doesn't have to have anything to do with sex or sexuality. So the way that I see sensuality is that it's a process, a practice, a relationship with our body, with our 5, 6 senses, with the ways that we receive information through sensation, through feeling, through even coming into the ephemeral, like our emotional bodies. So sensuality for me is about being in relationship with the physicality, with the emotionality of our bodies and all of the other expressions, feelings, sensations that can come up within that relationship.
What started to change for you as you began to heal? How did what were the first things that you noticed feeling different for you?
I noticed that I was feeling my body more. Like I was really conscious and aware that I had a body, and that I had a body that was trying to talk to me, like trying to deliver messages to me about slow down, don't do that, say no, say yes, soften here. And that was really surprising to get that connection. You know, I work within this methodology of somatics, and so much about my understanding about sensuality and the body and pleasure comes through this understanding that, like, in order for us to have the greatest sex that we want to have, or to really savor these pleasurable and enjoyable experiences that we have with people, we have to be in our bodies. And in order to be fully in our bodies, we can't sort of segment out or pick and choose which feelings we want to feel. We have to open up our capacity to feel everything, not just the good, not just the pleasurable, but the grief and the anxiety and the frustration and the fear and the disconnection. So that was something that I noticed right away, was that, this whole time I thought that I was disconnected from the head down. But actually, when I really took time to listen to my body, it had so much to say. It had so many desires. It wanted so many things. And then the task for me was to not just listen, but to heed those messages, like to actually build a relationship with my body that was in service to it feeling safe and feeling good, as opposed to overriding my body.
Yeah, I think we're so used to doing that. We're so used to overriding.
Yeah, I mean, we live in a culture that is constantly telling us and even celebrating us when we override our bodies, you know? I think about fitness culture when I think about how a lot of people have a relationship with their body through fitness, like through working out, going to the gym. That's their way of connecting to their body on purpose. And a lot of times what I see is, even in a yoga class, like even in a class that's supposed to be chill and like breathing, folks will still override their body. They will still, like, if a stretch isn't too intense, they're like, I don't want to hear my hamstrings screaming. Like, I'm just going to ignore that because no pain, no gain, right? So yeah, overriding is a part of our culture. And one of the things that I try to practice in my own personal practice, and also what I try to encourage my clients to think about, is this idea of slowing down. Because the only way that we're going to be able to listen to the voice of our body, the only way we're going to be able to be fully in our bodies, is if we slow our pace. And that has to be a deliberate act that we come back to minute by minute. Like, even if it's just taking intentional inhale through the nose, filling up the low belly, and then exhaling with a sigh. Like, that is a practice of slowing down. And when you come to those practices regularly, you're telling your body, hey, I see you, I hear you, and I'm going to pay attention to you.
I think that for many people listening to this, it's entirely possible that they haven't really thought about whether or not they're in their bodies. And what are some ways that people can tell when they're connected and when they are really in their bodies and when they're not, I guess?
Some of us might be familiar with, like, sitting at a computer all day or hunching over a screen as we're looking at our phone. And, like, think back to those moments. Where do you feel the energy located in your body? I know for me, during those moments, it feels at the very front of my face and also in my hands, whatever it is that I'm holding. If I'm looking at a screen, I only feel this energy or aliveness in my head and in my hands as I'm typing or whatever. I think another thing too that may not be something that you can sense in your own body, but what I notice happens for a lot of people is rushing creates a dissociation or a disconnection from the body.
Yeah.
Like think back to the last time you were rushing around. You're not even thinking about having a body. When you're rushing, where does your body go? When you're driving, where does your body go? When you're looking at your screen and scrolling for hours on end through your feeds, where is your body? Do you feel your body in those moments? Those are really great questions to ask, and not from a place of judgment, but just from a place of curiosity. For folks who might be unfamiliar with this still, think back to one of your favorite memories, something that gave you a lot of joy, that gave you a lot of happiness. I'm willing to bet that one of the reasons why that experience, that memory is so vibrant for you and such a favorite for you is because you were in your body. You were in your body experiencing life through all of your senses. You were totally awake to the connections you were making, the colors, the sounds, the sights. That is a really great indication that you're in your body. And we can all experience this on purpose. And that's where this relationship to sensuality, to our bodies can come into play to really enhance and accentuate those moments a lot more.
That was really, really helpful, the think back to one of your favorite memories exercise, because I think that something just clicked into place for me there. So if we successfully get in our bodies, I just wonder if it is a new thing for someone, if they don't spend a lot of time there, if they want to dissociate because it feels safer or it's just more familiar, it might feel a little bit overwhelming, no? There are needs that come up. There are things
Absolutely.
that our body is saying, right? So there's these messages. And maybe you can talk about, for you, when you started to really be more in your body, what are the things you started to hear, and what are the things that people might expect?
Yeah, that's the rub, right? Getting in our bodies means that we have to be in our bodies. And sometimes being in our bodies is hard. Sometimes sitting down with the emotions of our bodies is really, really difficult. And we have good reason to disconnect. We have good reason to dissociate because of how hard it is to be in our bodies a lot of the time. I'm thinking about marginalized folks. I'm thinking about people who have complex PTSD or who have been traumatized in whatever capacity. It is really difficult to be with ourselves because in order to be in our bodies, we have to begin to make contact with the parts of ourselves that we've been running away from, like the parts of ourselves that we've been on purpose trying to disconnect from. And for the record, I don't think that body disconnection or dissociation is a bad thing. I think it gets a bad rap, particularly if we are making that a habit. Like if that is our automatic response, is to disconnect, is to dissociate. But the act of disconnecting from our body is an act of trying to keep ourselves safe. It's an act of trying to bring regulation in a moment or in a time where things just feel too much, too fast, too soon. Disconnection, dissociation is our body's way of being like, hey, I got to shut down because I can't process what's happening. And that's a beautiful thing. We really want to trust in the wisdom of our body. And we also want to be curious about why and when that happens. Like a perfect example of this that I will use for myself, I'll use myself as an example. When it comes to sex, actually. So I was experiencing body shutdown every time that I would have sex with my partner. And my partner is a wonderful man. He is sweet. He is tender. He's attentive. He's patient. I've never felt unsafe with him within a sexual context. And yet my body was having this response of like, oh, intimacy, oh, sexy time, we got to shut down. We got to abort. Like we can't be here. And with instances like that, when you are seemingly in a space of safety, when people are around you who love you and are trying to connect with you, and you feel the sense of like, I don't want to be here, I invite people to think about like, why is that happening? And our bodies are so smart. Like the moment that we begin to tap into that, we might notice just these micro articulations, like just bringing more awareness to what is happening within your physical body, within your emotional body. I think having more of awareness of that can create the space, the potential for different choices. And maybe you don't know what those choices are just yet, but you can begin to get curious about that as you get curious about like where your body goes.
I thought about trust when you were just talking, because it strikes me that to be comfortable being anywhere, we have to really trust the space we're entering. And it's really hard to do if you don't trust your body. Like accessing sensuality would be very difficult. I think a lot of us have trouble trusting our bodies. Do you have experience with that, of working with people who maybe need to repair trust in their bodies?
Yes, absolutely. That's actually one of the first places that I start when I work with folks. I'm really curious about the relationship that they have to their body, like even from the basic, when I say that you have a body, like what comes up in your mind, or what sensations present themselves in your body as you think about that, as you ruminate on that. And a lot of times people are walking around, myself included, feeling like we forget that we have a body, because we move so fast in our world. Our culture really prioritizes the mind. And I've seen it in my work and also within some of the messages that I've internalized, that the mind is superior. It basically drives the body, that the body is just a vessel that the mind lugs around. And and I don't think that it's a bad thing, or that we should judge ourselves for having those associations. But one of the reasons why I do this work is to help folks create some curiosity around what would it be like for me to see my body as well as my mind, because my mind is a part of my body. If we look at the body in that way, maybe that can be the first step to beginning to trust, because so much of our understanding of our body is already so disjointed and dissociated. So if we start perhaps from this place of like, oh, my body is alive. It is a wise being that is constantly talking to me, constantly trying to give me messages, constantly trying to steer me into safety, dignity, belonging. Starting from that place, like what kind of curiosity can emerge? And from that curiosity, how can we build trust?
I love that. I love thinking of our bodies as steering us toward dignity and safety and experiencing the world in a beautiful way. If people are accessing for the first time this new way of experiencing and understanding the situations in which they find themselves, the people with whom they find themselves, I can't help but think that it might start to pose a lot of scary questions. Like, what if I'm with someone safe, why do I feel so unsafe? Or if these are my friends, why is my neck so tight? Like what? I mean, I don't know. How do you prepare people for starting to confront this new data set, really?
Yeah. I mean, that's the beauty and the curse, right, of getting in your body, is that like, if you are on this path and you're committed to honoring your body, then that means that you have to take the information, the sensations that your body is giving you really seriously, and begin to ask those questions like, why is it that like I'm with these friends who I think I love, but I actually don't feel safe around them? And we could look at that as an annoyance. We could look at that as like a devastation. But I like to think of it as a way to just like figure out like, oh, this is an opportunity for me to find ways to make myself feel safe, or to make myself feel soft in these interactions. Like maybe there's nothing wrong with the people. Maybe they're unknowingly doing something that might be triggering or activating to me. But that information can be really helpful especially if you're in a relationship with someone that you want to stay with. So in the example of me being activated during sex, one of the things that I realized, even though my partner was being really sweet and gentle and soft and loving and patient, the pacing of the sexual interaction was too fast for me. Like I needed more time. My body needed more time to assess that this was a safe experience. Because the body, in a lot of ways, isn't logical. It just keeps score of all of the things that it has experienced up until this point. So what that looked like for me is telling my partner, like, hey, I know that you might feel like this pacing is fine for you, but I need to slow down a little bit. Like I need to be able to slow down enough that I can feel my body when I'm in interaction, like sexual interaction with you. And that looks like me having more moments to pause, to breathe, to just like look around with my periphery of the room, to look at my partner, to remind myself like, oh yes, this is Jonathan. He loves me. We are here together. Like those little moments are so important. And I'm just talking about sex here, but this can be anything. I mean, this can be, you notice that when you're with friends, you have a blast with them, but you're often meeting too late at night and you really want to go to bed. And maybe that looks like saying, hey, y'all, I'm so distracted by how tired I am. I'm not able to be here fully with you. How about we meet up like, at a noon? Like, let's try doing a noon brunch or something like that. Like these are things that you can begin to just sort of pay attention to of like, what would help my body feel more safe, more seen, more soft, and see if you can bring those requests to the people that you love. And if they are able to meet them, wonderful. And if they're not, that's really good information for you to use about whether or not you want to keep moving forward with them in the future.
That is true. Also, the meeting earlier, so relatable. This is my life. I want to be in bed by 9:15.
Yeah, that was actually a real life experience that happened to me like last week. A friend of mine, a really good friend of mine, was like, I'm having a birthday party. And I'm like, sweet, I'm so excited to celebrate with you. And she's like, it's at 9:30. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm in bed at 8 p.m. So then I ended up showing up for a minute and I was like, wow, I can't even be here.
Totally. But it's really amazing to me as a woman in her latter 30s now, the ways and the times in which I've violated my own physical boundaries because I just, it didn't occur to me that I could ask for something else.
Yeah. I think I'm so glad you brought that up because I think a lot of us will gaslight ourselves and be like, it's no big deal. Everybody's here at this party at 10 p.m. Why can't I be here at 10 p.m.? Ev'Yan, just get over it. Like, just get over it, right? But the truth is that, like, that's how my body works. My body wants to be in bed at an earlier time. And now I'm fully distracted because I can't be here with my friends. That's not serving anybody. There is the option for me to ask for what I need and to tend to that. And that's not a bad thing. And then it makes me think of the other people who might have been in the room who are also having that same experience of like, yeah, this is really late for me too. Oh, this person, they just came in, gave a little hug, said that they got to go because they're sleepy. I can do that too?
Yeah.
Wow. So like we can, as we give ourselves permission to feel into what is going to make us feel good, even if it's seemingly irrational or we should be able to move through it or whatever. If we give ourselves that permission, we're also showing an example to other people that they can access and make those requests as well.
Yes, I am all for a sleepy babe revolution.
Yes, make parties earlier, please, for the love of God.
Truly. Being allied enough with yourself to override social expectations is such a big move. And I really hope that anybody listening feels empowered and enabled to do that from both of us admitting that we want to leave the party at like 8 p.m. so we can be in bed or earlier.
Yeah. And I mean, can we listen to our body's enthusiastic no's just as much as we can listen to our body's enthusiastic yeses? And what does that feel like in our body? Like, that is the question that I've been living with, of like, what does it feel like for my body to say yes? And how can I heed that a little bit more each day?
I have one last thing I wanted to ask you. And it's if you could help people understand something about sensuality, what would that thing be? What would you really want to leave them with?
I want people to know that they are a sensual being, that there is nothing that they need to learn. There's nothing that they need to do. There's no tool that they need to purchase. That just by having a body, just by listening to the voices and the wisdom of their body, just by paying attention with their senses, they are enacting their sensuality. And that they can come to this at any time. They can use their own sensuality as a tool to connect them to themselves, to connect them to the world around them, and to also explore the pleasure of being a human. For me, sensuality has been a practice of remembering just how pleasurable it can be to have a body and to be able to explore and feel and sense and enjoy. And that is what I think life is about. Life is about enjoyment, and sensuality can help get you there.
That's a great note to end on. Ev'Yan, thank you so much for your time. Where would you like people to find you?
There's so many ways that people can find me. Since my podcast was mentioned, I will use that as a first place for people to start or begin their journey of coming into their sensual selves. My podcast is called Sensual Self. You can find that wherever you listen to podcasts. I also have a book. It's a guided journal, also titled Sensual Self, that you can find wherever you find books. It's a really beautiful book that will help you connect to your body, to your senses, to your pleasure, with prompts and exercises, some of which I've kind of already explored on this episode today. And you can find me on Instagram. I post some reels and other informational things there that are fun and playful to help you create practices within sensuality and getting into your body.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, Caitlin, and thank you, Ev'Yan, for that gorgeous interview. And welcome to the Bookend. Here we are.
Where we end with books.
Where we end with books.
Yeah. I wasn't correcting you. I was just, adding the second part of the traditional line. I really love that conversation. I love Ev'Yan's work. I hope that everybody listening got something out of that. It might feel a little diffuse right now. And I do think that this one is one that's really worth going back to and listening again, because there's a lot there, even though it seems like maybe it's quite simple. Phoebe, you really like Ev'Yan's work. You just listened to the interview too. Why don't you tell me what stood out to you?
Sure. I think among many things was the scene that Ev'Yan describes with their partner, Jonathan, around having sex and suddenly kind of feeling this bodily disconnection. And I think in these situations, especially when it's someone that we're close with, we tend to feel a lot of shame and guilt and anger around the fact that we can't be there sexually connecting in our bodies. And what I really like about Ev'Yan's approach is they describe, instead of feeling guilt around that, just tuning in and hearing these kind of micro articulations of the body. And I think this is really powerful because the word micro comes up again and again in the interview in terms of a micro sensation, a micro feeling. And I think that's the whole point to me about Ev'Yan's work, is that listening to your body, it's not about these kind of huge, big, life-changing moments, although listening to your body will probably get you to those life-changing kind of experiences in the end. But actually, it's very small and soft, these moments that we have to kind of be listening out for and responding to.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah.
What stood out for you?
What stood out for me is this idea that Ev'Yan and I kind of laughingly came to toward the end of the interview about just asking for what you need. I think that is the biggest payoff of learning to listen to your body, because you actually know what you need if you listen. And maybe that means you get to leave the party at 8 p.m. I also think about this concept that I got from The Highly Sensitive Person, this book called The Highly Sensitive Person, how the body is kind of like the child in the relationship. You have to kind of take care of it and listen to it and give it what it needs. Make sure it has water, make sure it has rest. And it's really amazing how often we neglect this like tender child of our own beings. So advocating for that tender child.
The soft animal of your body.
The soft animal of your body, which is a beautiful line from a Mary Oliver poem. Why don't we have some recommendations? Phoebe is creative and unorthodox in almost everything she does, which is one of the reasons I love her. And she brought some poetry to recommend.
Yes, I have a non-fiction piece for you as per the rules afterwards.
Wonderful, good. Followed the rules and brought a creative recommendation. Great. Lay it on me. What is it?
I think the reason I thought of poetry was that the whole process of slowing down and being more in tune with what you hear and what you taste made me think of poems, because they're a kind of slower process. So the first poem that sprung to mind was this Wild Geese by Mary Oliver, because it reminded me of treating your body with tenderness and, not having to be down on your knees repenting. And the second collection of poems is from Raymond Antrobus. He's Jamaican, British, deaf poet. And he writes about sound in connection to identity and how you form your identity through the different senses when sound is perhaps not available to you, but you have this kind of visual world of sign. So beautiful. So those are some of my poems.
Do you have that second collection you just mentioned?
Yeah.
Ooh, I'm borrowing it.
Yeah, it's in my bag.
And for those of you who are listening, you can't borrow it from Phoebe. We'll link to it in the show notes.
Yeah, lovely.
Cool. Can I do my nonfiction pick and then you do your nonfiction pick?
Let's do it that way.
Okay. My nonfiction pick, which if you are a longtime listener of Simplify, maybe you've encountered already, maybe you haven't. If you haven't, I highly recommend that you give the book a read, give the Blink a read, and listen to the Simplify interview. It is The Body is Not an Apology by Sonia Renee Taylor.
Great pick.
So good. I loved this book. I really needed this book a few years ago when I encountered it. It's a defense of standing up for being in love with, being present to all of our bodies, no matter what they look like, no matter what size and shape they are, and not treating yourself like you're something to apologize for.
Awesome. And for my second selection, nonfiction, is The Power of Ritual by Casper ter Kuile.
Okay.
And the reason I like this one, Caitlin, is because, again, it's just about returning to yourself and what brings you joy and how can you make more of a ritual out of that and kind of chime into the seasonality of your emotions and your experiences.
Yeah. Anything else? Any other thoughts you want to share before we wrap up? I guess I have one more thing.
Yeah.
And I think it was really important that at the end of the interview there, Ev'Yan reminds us that you don't have to do anything to be sensual. I think that uncoupling sexuality and sensuality and recognizing yourself as a sensual being, a creature with senses, a creature who is feeling and moving through the world via tactile experience, via sound, smell, taste, touch, you're already doing it. You're already a sensual being, and don't sweat it. Don't worry about it too much. I think that is what I will be taking away with me.
I think that's a really nice message.
Yeah. So that's it. Phoebe, thank you for joining today. I'm so glad that you were here and we could do this together.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. Just so you know, dear listeners, in the Blinkist app, there is a whole guide on connecting to your sensual body that Ev'Yan did with Phoebe. Actually, Phoebe produced it. It's beautiful. It's in the Blinkist app. Again, go check it out. We will put links to all of these things in the show notes. And I want to say, stay tuned. Actually, you don't need to stay tuned. There will be another little bonus piece of content that will come out directly after this podcast episode. In fact, on the same day, it'll be really short. And what it is a quick, I think about 6-minute, 5-minute exercise that Ev'Yan walked us through to connect to your body and to get in your body. You can do it as many times as you need to. You can try it out once and never do it again. But it's really, really lovely. And we thought we would put it in the feed as its own separate entity. So if you're, kind of done thinking about your body now, you don't have to experience it. But if you want a little bit more and you want to put some of these things into practice, you can go check that out. So look for that in the feed. There's also a visual walkthrough of it on Blinkist's Instagram. And I think that's all the housekeeping.
Awesome.
Simplify is produced by me, Caitlin Schiller, Ben Schuman-Stoller. This time, Phoebe McIndoe is helping, Adi Constantino, and Luisa Carvalho, who will help with the audio production. You can check out all of the books that we mentioned here on Blinkist. There will be links to everything in the show notes. And thank you to Ev'Yan Whitney and to Phoebe.
Thank you.
Check it out.